Let's give it up for Eric Starwalker.
Oh. Wow. I've been on quite a journey since the last time I presented here on December 23rd. And for those of you who haven't heard my last presentation, just type my name into YouTube and you can hear it there. I'm going to assume that you all are a reflection of me, and that my personal journey somehow has meaning to your personal journey and the unfolding of magical events in my life. And I've been, since my last presentation, on quite a wild ride. I spoke about this Jupiter-Neptune trine, Jupiter in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces trine that's basically in effect most of 2018, being an open door to the appearance of sorcerers, shamans, and those who have access to the underworld, and as a gateway to the higher dimensional worlds. And this is primarily occurring in the dream time, beyond our conscious awareness. But on January 3rd, I had a profound dream time experience that I'd like to share with you. And I'm warning, it's kind of graphic in the beginning. So if any of you don't mind a somewhat R-rated experience, then I'm going to share with you. I found myself in a rather dark, foreboding world. It felt like thunderclouds were gathering. There was an ongoing contest for power in the kingdom. Two gigantic male beings emerged victorious. I watched in awe as they laid down on their backs next to each other, with their gigantic phalluses rising hundreds of feet in the air into the sky parallel to one another, similar to the Twin Towers. At the very top, the heads of their phalluses bent to the side, supporting a rectangular platform. A certain kind of dark sorcery had everyone mesmerized. This platform, because one of the phalluses was slightly shorter than the other, the platform balanced precariously at an angle on the top. After a short period of time, the somewhat shorter phallus on the right began to lose its erection. You guys will relate to this. And the platform came tumbling down. All hell broke loose and chaos ensued. Myself and a small band of brothers and sisters escaped to the edge of the kingdom and began scaling down a massive encircling wall. This wall was sunlit and sandstone in color. It was an archaeologist's dream. Embedded in the wall were ancient Egyptian artifacts. The most powerful artifacts were at the very top of the wall. By the time we got to the bottom, there were only shards of broken pottery. It struck me that the foundational symbols of our present cultural sorcery in play in the present day civilization were set in place in Egyptian times. Outside the wall now, it was also dark, as I felt a cold breeze against my face. It didn't seem foreboding, just abandoned with cars and possessions of the former inhabitants all around. We all began to scatter to find a car and whatever else we needed to survive. Suddenly, lights began appearing in the sky, casting beams of light down around all of us. I began to sing with as much heart power as I could summon in a slightly higher pitched voice. Come together. We are all together now. We are one. I sang this over and over again. The reason I was singing this was because I wasn't sure whether the lights in the sky were from the kingdom that had fallen and were looking for us. So they seemed a bit foreboding. So we circled together with our arms around each other's shoulders and sang this song together. This brought us together in a circle facing inwards, arms across each other's shoulders, with our heads slightly bowed. We were all singing together when I felt that a female voice was needed to sing an octave above mine. I made the request, and a beautiful, somewhat frail female began to sing in a high but broken voice. She didn't look very well to me. It felt like she represented the wounded feminine. As soon as she started singing, the lights in the sky descended. I was in awe as brilliant and powerful female warriors created a shining path into our circle. These women were about 3 times my size in Xena-like garb. They didn't feel angelic, but were the full embodiment of female power. These warriors were greeting each other as if they had been called together from the far corners of the universe for this special purpose. They immediately embraced the female singer for special healing. It was clear that they were primarily here to heal and empower the women of the world. This was an all-female advanced race that had come to save the planet. And later, as I meditated on and asked them what their name was, I was given the name Ozara, O-Z-A-R-A, Ozara tribe. And I just looked it up and Googled it, and it actually turns out to be a Nigerian city. So it's connected to the African medicine, the medicine that Africa carries. Okay, so that left me quite dazzled, and then shortly afterwards, well, let's see, there's shortly afterwards I was buying something on Amazon, and you know how they bring other things up that might be related? Well, this book showed up, to my surprise, and I was immediately drawn to it. It's called The Mystery of the White Lions, and because of a friend of mine, Samantha Sweetwater, who has taken journeys down to South Africa to connect with the white lions there, I was immediately drawn to the book. And having read it, I came to a section that explained the origin of the white lions, shared by this lion shaman, Credo Mutwa. And this directly relates to the Dreamtime experience, so I'm going to share that with you also. There was a female shaman, this was like 400 years ago, a queen called Numbi. She lacked in beauty, but was a very wise woman. And as I was reading this, I realized that the woman in the Dreamtime experience may have been her. And there was an encounter she had. There was the appearance of a light to the tribe, a light in the sky, just like the light that I saw in the Dreamtime of the female warriors. And came down in the area of Numbi's tribe, and she, with another old woman, kind of walked out to see what the light was all about. And the women walked for a long time. They were old, their bones were creaking, their joints stiff, but at last they came to the place where the strange spherical light was sitting like a newborn sun upon the ground. The women heard a strange humming noise coming from the sphere of light. For a long time they stood there, squinting into the glare of the strange star lying on the ground. It was huge, it was big, but it radiated very little heat. The women were amazed. Great One, Mother of the people, we must go from here. I agree, said Numbi. Let us go, my faithful ones. We might accidentally anger the gods. But Numbi decided to stay. And Numbi said to her servants, look, my servants, the god raises its hand in salutation to me. One of them had appeared to her, had come out of the craft and raised its hand to her. Numbi walked slowly toward the god. She moved with shambling gait on weakened knees, and she came close to the god and lifted her hand, and the god came close to Numbi and placed his hand upon hers. And then the god disappeared. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. Only its footprints in the soft sand testified to the fact that it had been there. She walked toward them and said, Gwandi, listen, my two little sisters. You must go now, return home. Numbi said, the gods want me. This is why the god came. That is why the god came. So Numbi reminded me directly of the Dreamtime encounter with the woman who sang in a high-pitched voice, and these advanced warriors of a female tribe appeared to take her with them. And so this connected me right back to a real-time experience here, connected with the lion medicine of the white lions in South Africa. And the reason why this is so meaningful to me is because I've been tracking the possible appearance of a new level of the higher dimensional beings making themselves known, with Varuna entering Leo, which has just begun to occur. And I had imagined that being Leo being the lion, the sun king, but now I'm realizing that it's the sun queen, or the lionesses of the Leonine white lion tribe. The women empowered as the lioness, being the next wave as Varuna enters Leo fully on June 1st of this year. It's still hovering back and forth across the cusp of the Leo Cancer transition. But Varuna will enter Leo on June 1st, and I'm getting indications here now, because of this Dreamtime encounter and reading this book, that being confirmed that there is a higher, more advanced tribe of female warrioresses who are making themselves known and becoming more available to our consciousness as the next phase of our evolution unfolds.
Just in the nick of time.
Yeah. Because it appeared in the Dreamtime experience that all had been lost. We were just like, out in this darkened area. And just out of the blue, these lights began to appear. So I'm sharing this with you as a deep part of my own personal journey. And I'm still reading the book and talking to Samantha. And I'll be sharing this with her more deeply. And there's something unfolding here for me that may relate to your own experiences of finding that deep connection in the Dreamtime that will begin to point the way to a more empowered state of being. How have your dream time experiences been? Have you been noticing an increase
Yeah.
in the power of your dreams? Yeah, there are dreams, and then there are dream time experiences that you feel like you've been through an experience rather than it's just being a dream, and those are the ones that have a deep impact on your soul.
It's interesting yours was so dark because mine have been growing more intense lately, but also with like a very dark undertone to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there's any significance
Yeah,
in that.
that's Jupiter and Scorpio diving into the underworld first, so that understanding and empowerment can occur in the depth of your being, and then you're emerging victorious in your own heroine's journey into a greater understanding and light of your being. And these kinds of encounters occur out of the blue. None of us in that little small circle expected anything like that to happen. So these encounters can occur in a magical way that seem to be completely out of context with the rhythm and reality of your life as you know it to this point. So the first part of that dreamtime encounter was so, vivid and overpowering. It was just mesmerizing, and it really did describe in exact detail the energetic contest for power that's going on now with Saturn in Capricorn, applying to Pluto in Capricorn, that I went into quite a bit in my last talk. The cultural sorcery involved with the empowerment process is what we're breaking free from. Do we have any Lord of the Rings fans here? Have you actually read the books? Okay, well, Sauron was the Dark Lord of the Lord of the Rings series, and his symbol in the movies was very much the occultic version of Saturn, with this half moon and the all-seeing eye in the center. What's not depicted in the movies is that there was more than one ring of power. Saturn has his rings, so the ring of power is symbolic of Saturn, and the accruing of impact through the cultural sorcery of the present age, so that you gain status and recognition in terms of the culture that we are embedded in. And this ring of power, there were actually many rings, but Sauron was able to give these smaller rings to those who were part of his circle. And these smaller rings represented personal empowerment within the sphere of your own relationship or area that you were living in. And yet these smaller rings were tied to the larger ring that Sauron had control over in the Lord of the Rings, so that if you accepted the smaller ring from him, you were under his control. So I immediately thought of Donald Trump and the way he delegates authority, and how many in his inner circle have chosen to leave and not accept the ring in order to maintain their own personal integrity. So we have all had opportunities to rise to certain levels of recognition in society if we compromised our own personal integrity. And we found ourselves walking away, not accepting the ring offered to us in order to gain and realize our own personal power and standing in the world, so that we could stand in integrity with the impact that we were leaving on the people and culture around us. So how many of you had opportunities to advance in your influence and then walked away because it didn't align with your own sense of personal integrity, and realizing that you were accountable to yourself to handle the power given with a certain grace, and realizing the impact you had consequences? Yeah. So through the Saturn in Capricorn phase over the next 3 years, the consequence of our being true to our own inner authority and taking command of our own influence and impact on society around us will increasingly be recognized and rewarded. So many of you may find yourself being advanced in ways that you hadn't anticipated because you stayed true to your own inner authority. You hadn't accepted the small ring of power from the powers that be to succeed in the eyes of society, but not succeed in terms of your own inner integrity. So tests of integrity now are really a big part of the initiation sequence over the next 3 years that will open the way then from 2020 onward to the true impact and effect of the Age of Awakening really beginning to be shown and known and seen on a global level. Another interesting correlation to my sharing this Leo 9 Dreamtime encounter is that we're having this full moon lunar eclipse at 11 degrees of Leo on the morning of the 31st, and that's it's exactly conjunct Ceres, and Ceres, as some of you may know, is the mother goddess, and Leo is connected with the lion energy, and she's within 2 minutes conjunct this solar eclipse. So that would be the queen lion, the lion queen, which is very parallel to Numbi and the Ozara tribe that showed itself in the Dreamtime. So I'm really sensing and feeling that the women now are really beginning to recognize that it's their time to really take the stage and shine their light boldly. Are you feeling that, ladies in the room? Yeah. And the full moon lunar eclipse is like a point of no return, where you really feel like it's time, that it's no longer an option for you to hold your light under a blanket, and that it's really important that you move forward now and show that light brightly. So are you ready to rock and roll? So let's take a closer look at February. Anybody have any comments or feedback on what I've shared about the Dreamtime experience so far? This is just sinking in. Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm glad you shared that, because I have been having stronger dreams than I've had in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot about shifting energies. And one in particular that I just can't let go of. And I don't know, I generally don't remember my dreams. It had to do with, I mean, obviously a lot of this is allegory, but it had to do with me being in a place of personal power, as even military was coming in and trying to shift things and changing, and staying in that power and resisting that. So I think so many things in these dreams are helping to prepare us for the shifting into the new paradigm. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. When Neptune is involved, it's primarily Dreamtime encounter, and then as you awaken to the impact of the Dreamtime encounter, then it begins to reflect back to you in your ordinary life experience. And just like that Dreamtime encounter, I had really no idea what to do with it, but then this book just showed up magically, and it's like beginning to anchor now into this long lion medicine tradition through the Sphinx and the Sekhmet.
And the on your Amazon?
Amazon, where you buy things on Amazon? Yeah, on my Amazon. Well, it's interesting. I was shopping on Amazon.com, and the book showed up.
Just out of the blue.
And the interesting thing about the Sabian symbol for this eclipse is it's related to being at the source of the Amazon. There we go. So yeah, the Sabian symbol for this solar eclipse, I mean this lunar eclipse coming up on the 31st, is
one interesting thing, I read that book years ago, that the first white line appeared on December the 25th.
December
December the 25th.
Well, actually, I just read that part, and it was September of 1975. Yeah, the second to last week.
Well, years ago, so.
Yeah, 1975, which happens to be my daughter's birthday, and she's Leo rising. So it's like, oh my God, this is getting too bizarre here. So, so the Sabian symbol of 12 degrees of Leo, the mouth of the Amazon River. I mean, how many of you on a spiritual path have noticed synchronicities coming and building in just almost laughable ways? So that's the point where you just have to start laughing. Rarely can you get to the central place and stay there. But if destiny is fast and free, you do abide in the heart of creation. You never leave this spot. The host of virtues and gifts are showered upon you as you hold this post with supreme impersonal self-command. That's the lion medicine. The most outstanding of these qualities is a faith and confidence in the powers that be, which can move mountains. And accompanying this trait is an unworldliness which hosts or orchestrates a threshold awareness, an open door between the worlds. Now, this is exactly what I just sharing with you. It's the dream time really making itself known. You entirely live for the cosmic, the universal, the inner source spring. And what you perceive along this path is how everything goes out from here over all the world, but everything returns to here as well. So that the highest and the truest can once again be sparkled into the shared stream and known to be pulsatingly alive and self-renewing in the most rapturous gesture of moving with whatever is asked. And rapturous gesture is a key word for Neptune in Pisces. You feel this invitation to embody a more rapturous, ecstatic state in a consistent fashion as you navigate through this earthly matrix. Most of us seek peak experiences through which that rapture is made known as a spiritual experience. But the real work is then coming down from the mountain and learning and being able to maintain, sustain that rapturous ecstatic state in a continuous and consistent manner throughout your daily walk here on earth. And when you're able to do so, synchronicities abound and magical surprises just show up as in the ordinary conduct of your life. And that's when the journey comes full circle and you are able to maintain a sustained vision of that contact, that connection with the source, the higher power, being a living experience in your ordinary life's conduct. How many of you feel like you've made it that far? We're all past here. So there's no need any longer for an intervention that breaks you through, because that intervention, that rainbow bridge, has already been built, and it deepens over time and is confirmed through the magical encounters that you experience in the daily conduct of your life. You then become a living incarnation of that bridge as a source of the power of love moving in this world in a conscious and purposeful way. How many of you have moved beyond the need to be loved? How many of you move so deeply into the heart and ecstatic state of your own being that you realize that you are love manifest in this world?
Working on
Yeah.
Glimmers.
it. On my to-do list.
That, we take a little longer, glad, the women are way ahead of us in that respect. But as that connection deepens, the Antakarana bridge is strengthened. The power of that love moves through the very center of your heart. You become a living manifestation, incarnation of that love manifest in this world as a commitment. And that commitment then anchors so deeply in the depth of your soul that it cannot be moved regardless of circumstance unfolding around you. And no matter how dark it gets around you, you then realize that commitment deepens to be that love in this world, regardless of whether anyone else recognizes it, supports it, or understands it. And that's when you're free. You've then arrived at a place in your being where there's solid ground. And these magical encounters, like my Dreamtime experience, just open the way to confirm the presence of these higher order beings, if you want to call them that have always been there but are not always available to us consciously, and yet still move in our being in ways that we are just now beginning to understand and comprehend. I know Sophia has encountered many of those higher order beings, and she's still here with us to share her experience. Can you confirm what I'm saying here is being your reality? Yes. So, did you want to say something?
Yeah, regarding the lion people.
Mm-hmm.
Many times when we've been in the prayer meditation room here with Lewis, just a simple story.
Mm-hmm.
They're real. They're real beings, human body with the lion head, and talking about somebody that, like myself, is very reluctant and timid or whatever, but the one day I was sitting kind of like this, and this spirit lion being at that point, they took my shoulders and they put me straight like this, and then they took my hands that were like hanging like that, and they put them in like a position like an animal, like a tiger or lion would be. And they took my elbows and brought me here and lifted my chin up. And then as I watched, and I say the word she walked that way, and I looked and she turned her face at me, and it was a beautiful, beautiful female lion. It's a courage, it's a strength, it's determination, it's encouragement that as women, I speak for us, is that now we're balanced with the males. It's not to take over the men, it's not the men to lose themselves, but for us to come together, and it's a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's like the piano, a key. You can hit a low note, and that could be a male frequency, and you can hit a high note, and that could be a female frequency. And you hit both notes, and you have a beautiful harmony coming together. And that.
Mm-hmm.
But they are walking upon this earth. Truly, they are here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, this Leo solar eclipse, their presence will be quite tangible, and watch for opportunities for them to reveal and show themselves in your lives through human agents. This doesn't necessarily need to occur in the dream time, but it can just surprise you. This also reminds me of a Dreamtime encounter I had back in May of last year. It explains what happened in that Dreamtime encounter. Let's see if I can find that.
So last solar eclipse was in Leo, and now you're having a lunar eclipse in Leo?
Yes, they tend to be opposite one another 6 months later. And then in February, we'll have a solar eclipse in Aquarius at 27 degrees. And looking at February, it's quite remarkable to see no full moons, but just a solar eclipse smack in the middle. You know, it's a dark spot on February 15th. So the period from January 31st through February 15th, between eclipses, there are always marked or fated turning points that occur in our lives and globally. So that'll be a very powerful time for the emergence of a clarity within our being about where we stand and about who we are, and that there's a time in your life where you can't any longer turn backward, that you take a stand and move forward regardless of the consequence. And that's kind of the experience between eclipses, where you realize that you've reached a point of no return and there's only one way but to move forward with courage.
It's interesting to hear you talk about lions. We always see the Leo as the male lion.
Yeah.
But if we study lions and we see what the male lion's role is, and as opposed to the female lions are all about cooperation and nurturing, and the male lions run the mouths a lot and fight each other, pee on things, roam around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the females are very insular and familial and cooperative.
Yeah.
But we don't often hold up the female lioness as a role model in our society. We always see the masculine male lion, which is the super macho symbol. So it's interesting just to think of Leo in another way.
Well, it's the female lions who do all the hunting.
Sure. The majority, yeah.
The male lions just kick back and fight with each other. You know.
They also eat first and eat the most, and then everybody else can eat after him. Ironically.
But it's the female lions that get the job done, and so yeah. Thanks for sharing that, brother.
It's just interesting to think about this.
Yeah, the symbolism there is quite profound, especially for us, and the transition from the male dominant patriarchal archetype to
the individual versus the collective.
Yeah. Yeah, I had another Dreamtime encounter. I was explaining to a group of people what had just happened in the Dreamtime, and I was about to share. And before I do, I need to do one more thing. I looked at the dark man and was surprised when a short, powerful, low growl emerged out of the depth of me. Here, I said it felt like a lion. The man was blown backward and upward about 20 feet, glowing red like black lava that had fiery cracks and was burning from within. So I had actually, when I look back after these experiences on that Dreamtime encounter back in May, I realized that I felt the heavy weight of the lion's head and this giant jaw, and I was a lion in that Dreamtime encounter, and the power of that growl came from the very depth of me and just blew this dark energy out of my circle. So all these pieces started fitting together. So in your journeys, it may not be obvious when you have a Dreamtime encounter that's quite profound, but once you do, then ask the universe to confirm and clarify the nature and purpose of that Dreamtime encounter through your continued experience in this world. And you'll watch synchronicities begin to show up, and seemingly unrelated events begin to actually add pieces to that puzzle, and the whole experience begins to gain context. And once it gains context, then the deeper meaning and purpose of that dreamtime encounter becomes clearer. Okay? So I'm just sharing my ongoing journey with you because it's a mystery unfolding for me as well. And once I talk to Samantha, I feel like the next step of what the actual engagement process with this, in a conscious and purposeful way, may be for me and others around me will become clearer. But there's a presence being revealed and making itself known that opens the door to this solar fire of Leo really emerging in the heart of us. And as the Hopis have prophesied, the next age is the age of flowers. And the flower is symbolic of the heart, the blossoming of the heart, in which each individual human accesses the Leo fire within inside of them and activates that brilliant sun that radiates the power of love out from their own being and becomes an individual source of that light to others around them and the world around them. This goes back to what I was just saying earlier about your being love in the world. You become the source of that light. And if that light is reflected to others and confirmed and shared, that's beautiful, but it's no longer required. You are then free to be that light in the world. So February 15th is the solar eclipse in late Aquarius. So the time between Tuesday and the middle of February should mark significant turning points, and this Leo lunar eclipse will be a demonstration to you in your own personal lives on some level of the opportunity to make more conscious and purposeful contact with these solar beings we now may call lion people because that's the image we wrap around them, but they're really just manifestations of that solar light, that brilliant light that's pouring out from the source. And I would suggest, if you're guided to do so, checking out the mystery of the white lines for yourself, because it goes into the deep history of the lion energy, starting with the Sphinx and Sekhmet in Egypt, and it's quite a journey.
Eric,
Mm-hmm.
in the geodetic system where you put the zodiac over the Earth,
Yeah.
the Sphinx is the Leo Virgo cosmos.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Earth, Europe, and
Mm-hmm.
Leo.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of planning next month as much as I plan anything, and on just a broad scale, if we've got this eclipse of the moon
Mhm.
leading into the month, kind of like the threshold of the month, and then the eclipse of the sun in the middle of the month, and I'm starting a Vipassana on the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so it's gonna kind of lead into that, and I'm kind of planning my post the experience afterwards, and just planning a trip and like towards the middle of the month. Anyways, how would you generally say, like, hey, you know, like sometimes people say, you know, if you have like a retrograde coming,
Mm-hmm.
the Mercury retrograde, like, hey, take care of your business before the Mercury retrograde rolls around. Like,
Mhm.
what would the generalized advice be about the first half of February as opposed to the second half?
The period between the eclipses, it seems like almost fated events occur, where you're just directed in a way that you have no doubt at all about what you need to do. So if you have that inner clarity, certainty about doing this, then that's the path that will offer you the greatest opportunity to grow during that period of time. And it'll seem like everything just confirmed itself, that this is the right thing to do beyond what you can even understand consciously. You just have this inner clarity about this being the right direction to move in. You have that inner clarity?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need. And that inner clarity is a signal that you're in contact with your oversoul. And when you trust that inner clarity, then the experience itself will reveal to you the purpose for which you were guided in that direction. You don't need to figure it out ahead of time. I use a symbol upstairs, just a traffic light. It's either yellow, green, or red. And if it's green, that's all I need to know. Because I can't really understand why I'm being directed that way until I actually go through the experience itself. And then once I do, my faith is confirmed, or my direction is confirmed. But if I waste all my time trying to figure out why I'm being directed that way to confirm it ahead of time, I just get confused. And it always turns out differently anyway. So I just look at that light. If it's green, don't even think about. Just stay out of the future. Just go with it, and move with the inner directedness that you're experiencing. So that sounds to me like it's a big green light for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all you need to know.
So where is this green light that you get to see?
It's I just visualize. I just look at the traffic light. I just visualize a traffic light upstairs when I've had a question.
Okay.
And it's either red, yellow, or green. It's really, and I just
So
keep
you
it
just
that.
visualize.
I just visualize it. Yeah, it's just really that simple. Because otherwise, I get into complicated, ideas about why it's right or, I don't need any of that. I just need the signal that it's the right direction.
Well, I'm undecided about something, so.
You're gonna go check out his light.
Unless you're the kind of person, the rebel who just runs red lights, It's like, we have those too. Go ahead.
With eclipses, there is sequences that happen, whether you end up with the solar first and the lunar second, or the lunar first and the solar second, or three of them in a row, or so on. The idea that we're starting the month with the lunar, or full moon, and then going down to the solar, or the new moon, the first 2 weeks is a lot about realizing you're carrying a burden that you don't need to carry anymore. And so it's about letting it go. It's about lightening up and becoming more the fool in the tarot deck.
Yeah.
And then once the new moon hits the middle of the month, and then the 2 weeks after that, that's where you build and take off and do your new things.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for adding that. There is a difference. So we're heading from a full moon, lunar eclipse. That's always a full moon, and it'll be waning and waning, losing light until the new moon on February 14th, solar eclipse. And so the full revelation of your solar power, your individual creativity, Leo, with this full moon lunar eclipse, then you begin sharing that, which is the disseminating phase, with others around you, the community at large. And by the time we get to the new moon, you're ready to join a circle of others in Aquarius who have done the same and experience a greater unity with them in a collective way. I compare Aquarius to a constellation of stars, whereas Leo is an individual star. But if each individual star in that constellation were shining brightly, you couldn't have the constellation of Aquarius, of the field that creates an overall community of energy. So each star has to individually ignite before that constellation of stars can come into being. And the Leo is the ignition of your individual star, so that you shine that brightly and take your place in the heavens, in the universe.
One of my favorite quotes about Leos is, it says Capricorn rules by delegated authority, where Leo rules by divine right. And I feel like that really ties in what you're talking about. I just wanted to share.
Your divine right to shine and be as brilliant as you are capable of being, yes.
So we got a full moon. It's gonna be covered by the sun for a time.
By the Earth's shadow.
The Earth's shadow.
Yeah.
And then the sun covered to some degree by the moon. So they're kind of taking turns.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got kind of like the polarity here, where the moon symbolizing the feminine. The sun's like, and then the sun's like, you know, the projected masculine, and the moon's gonna cover that. So it's like in this time, like within a 2-week period, we get to experience this: the individual, the collective, the masculine, the feminine, and the relation, the juxtaposition of them. Probably a good time, it sounds like, to think about how we balance these forces in ourselves and in our community.
And the Leo Aquarius axis that we're talking about here, balancing, is being the individual star, Leo, shining so brightly that you overwhelm or dominate everything around you. When the sun rises, you can't see any of the other stars, right? Versus Aquarius, where all the stars can be are visible, and you can see the patterns and relationships between them as a community. That's Aquarius. So that's the polarity that we'll be exploring between the lunar eclipse on the 31st and the solar eclipse on February 14th.
On the moon nodes in the Leo.
Yeah, and the eclipses always occur close to the moon's nodes, because that's where the Earth and lunar axis intersect, and those are the only places that an eclipse can occur. So the nodal axis will always be emphasized, either the south or north node. And the north node's in Leo right now, so this lunar eclipse will occur at the growth point, the north node, that which we're striving to achieve, and the solar eclipse will occur near the south node. Something we've drawing from the past and our history in previous incarnations. So this is a stellar combination. Let's put it that way. But but you know, the thing about the eclipses is that the lunar eclipse is always dealing with the Earth's shadow, and the solar eclipse the moon's shadow. But these shadows are always there. It's just during the eclipses that we become aware of them.
Wow.
And they become visible to us. They become something that we're consciously then able to engage. Okay, so that's why eclipses are so powerful. They bring to light what's always been, you know, operating a background operating system, you know, software that's been running in the background. Suddenly you get an alert on your computer to check that software out. It may need some tweaks here and there, you know.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention before, but like as of recently, it seems there's been so many powerful eclipses happening, like together, and I was just wondering, is there any significance of that, and why is it happening?
Well, I'm not really. I don't know the history of eclipses, but it seems that in the 1800s there were many more eclipses than there are now. Because I have a book called A Table of Planetary Phenomena that lists the eclipses, and so they've always been with us, but we're just now able to more consciously engage with them. So you may be more available to the opportunity of the eclipse than usual. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Probably a number of us have Pluto in Leo.
Yes.
I was wondering if you'd be willing to address that.
Yeah, I have Pluto at 11 degrees of Leo, and the lunar eclipse is at 11 degrees of Leo. So, so it's been nice knowing you all.
What are you gonna come back as?
And Pluto's the ruler of my chart, so yeah. Yeah, the entire Pluto and Leo generation from around 1940 to late 1950s is being called to the carpet to shine their light brilliantly as an opportunity to show themselves or reveal themselves more fully in the light of their own being, rather than being compromised by the cultural sorcery that they may have been embedded in that has dimmed their light. So we'll be, you know, and Trump is a part of that. And you have Pluto and Leo also, right? What degrees are Pluto?
I wanna say 14.
What's that?
I wanna say 14.
14, so it's close enough, yeah. Yeah. So you in particular we may call him a petty tyrant who demands that you stand up and roar. Pluto, you're always dealing with a petty tyrant of some kind who pushes you against the wall and brings out the best in you. Or you stand up for yourself or die, or get rolled over. And that's his great gift to us. He demands that we rise and take our power.
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Also, is the
Yeah.
classic the devil
Right.
card.
Meeting his own father, right? Anyone else?
Oh, if
Yeah.
you want to see the eclipse,
Yeah.
it's a little tricky here because we got the eddies in the way.
Right.
It's exact at 4:51 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see it coming into full, but I got a feeling we're going to have to scoot up the mountain a bit to be able to see it at full.
The lunar.
Yeah.
The lunar eclipse.
Lunar
on the
eclipse,
31st, yeah. Unless you can position yourself where there's a valley in between you and the moon here, I think the eddies are going to block it right at full.
Yeah. The center of the eclipse is 5:27 a.m. That's the new moon, but it's usually visible a couple hours to 2 to 3 hours ahead of time. You start seeing it darken. So we'll watch the moon darken. Increasingly get darker and darker as it sets.
The moon's set somewhere like 5:15, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But that'll be interesting. Yeah. Okay, unless there are any other questions, comments?
What about the rest of the month?
February? Well, the eclipses between now and the middle of the month are so dominant that, and then Varuna will transit back into Cancer on February 20th through June 1st, and then on June 1st go direct into Leo for quite some time. So that's the
How do you
transition
spell
there.
that?
Excuse me?
Varuna?
Varuna. It's a newly discovered celestial that played, it was the most dominant signature actually in the 9/11 chart. Jupiter was exactly conjunct Varuna at the top of the chart.
Is it an asteroid?
It's a Kuiper belt object, I believe. And
Oh, it's out there.
yeah, it's one of those newly discovered planets that are in the Pluto family. And if you just search Varuna astrology, you can really dive deep into the archetype of Varuna and find out where it is in your chart.
What is the archetype of Varuna?
Varuna was the creator god of the Hindus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Hindu creator god. So they ran out of Roman and Western gods, so they started calling the other gods, and which is a great symbol of what's going on now. That we've the Western world has reached the limit of its imagination. Let's put it that way. And we're finally inviting the other gods into the circle. Okay, which is awesome to me.
Why did you say your chart's ruled by Pluto?
Because I'm Scorpio rising.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we have these beautiful transitions of Venus into Pisces into her own sign on February 10th through the remainder of February through the beginning of March. And then Mercury enters Pisces on the 17th of February. Neptune being in her own sign has been kind of hanging out there in the ascendant planes as the gateway to the ecstatic, all kind of by herself. Like some may just feel when you get into your meditational mode, you just disconnect from the world, and you're no longer connected to anything but this dreamtime ecstatic experience that you're having. Well, when Venus enters Pisces, Neptune's sign, and Mercury enters Pisces on the 17th, then we will have more of a conscious connection to Neptune and the portal to the ecstatic. And that'll be through, especially through the first week of March. Both Mercury and Venus enter Aries on the 6th and the 7th of March. So there's a special time. And then the Sun enters Pisces on the 19th, adding to that the opportunity of that gateway opening, the portal to the ecstatic and the divine opening through to the spring equinox.
Pretty aquatic.
Yeah, it's ecstatic.
A lot of
It's
fluidity in that.
yeah, it's direct conscious access to the dream time, where this world, the dreaming quality of nature of this ordinary, what seems like ordinary experience becomes dreamlike, and we begin to recognize the dreaming quality of this, what we call reality. We walk between the worlds, and that's a beautiful portal opening through February. The lunar eclipse on the 31st is interesting also because Mercury enters Aquarius within minutes, a few minutes of the eclipse being complete, just as the moon is coming out of the eclipse, and Mercury enters Aquarius, which lightens the energy quite a bit. It's very electric and lightning. And so that particular morning, if you're still in the dream time, should be quite active. I'd be keeping notes about who and what you encounter.
So that's the morning of the 15th or the 16th?
Yeah.
The first.
The 31st.
Oh, the 31st.
Mhm.
It's coming Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah, just as the moon sets, and then right after that, within 20 minutes, Mercury enters Aquarius, and kind of electrifying insights begin to occur, which begins to kind of signal almost the beginning of that solar eclipse in February in Aquarius. Gives us a heads up. Any other questions or comments?
Thanks for digging back into your little calendar there to dig
Yeah.
up some more nuggets for us. Appreciate it.
Well, I responded to questions, so, yeah. All right, brothers and sisters. Thank you for coming. Thank you for hearing and sharing my experience with me.
Thank you.